In order to find f of f, just like before, whatever letter comes first, that's what you write down first in your function. We know that we're substituting in another function, so we take out x and we plug in our other function. In this case, it just happens to be the same exact thing. So we're plugging in x squared. So once you plug in x squared, the left is just notation. We took function f and we substituted in x squared. On the right hand side, once we simplified, x squared raised to the second power is x to the fourth. Since that's a polynomial, we know that our domain is negative infinity to positive infinity. The second part of the problem, if we want to find g of g, g comes first. So we write down our function first. G of x is equal to square root of x minus 3. And we know that we're substituting in something for x. So we put parentheses in the place of x just to remind ourselves. And inside of that, we are substituting in the same function. So we're plugging in the square root of x minus 3. So we took our function g, we substituted into it the square root of x minus 3. So what we have is the square root of the square root of x minus 3 minus 3. Looks a little strange, but that's exactly what we have. So here, in order to find our domain, once again we have to pay attention to what did we plug in. We substituted in the square root of x minus 3, and we have to pay attention to our final result, its domain. So when we looked at g of x, the function we substituted in, our domain, we want to make sure that whatever's under our radical sign is greater than or equal to 0. So x is greater than or equal to 3. Our final answer from our previous problem is the square root of the square root of x minus 3 minus 3. So same thing as before, whatever is under our radical sign, we want to make sure that this value is greater than or equal to 0. So we have square root of x minus 3 has to be greater than or equal to 0. When we want to solve this for x, we're going to add 3 on both sides. The opposite of square root is squaring, so we need to square both sides. And now to solve for x, the opposite of subtracting 3, we add 3. So your final answer is what works for both the function you substituted in, g of x, and your final result. So drawing a number line normally helps to see our result. So we have 3 and we have 12. Our first function says I can use 3 and everything above that. Once we solve the problem, our domain for the actual answer says I can have 12 and everything above that. So the domain of g is what's going to work for both of these. Where do the red graph and the green graph overlap? So our domain is going to be from 12 to positive infinity. That's the only place where you have both the red graph and the green graph. Those are the only values that work for both the function you substituted in and your final result.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.